What's up, y'all, man? We back with another episode, Built to Last.
Sure.
Sure. We've had a lot of fun with the past couple episodes, so we're gonna definitely keep it going. So for this week, our idea or theme for the conversation today is the identity beyond the jersey. We're gonna talk a little bit about what that means, what that looks like, why it's important to have an identity beyond the jersey. So first, just kind of like giving a little breakdown. So it's important to explore who you are outside of your sport and understanding that your value isn't tied to your performance. It isn't tied to the stats or like the number you put on the back of your jersey or the front of your jersey. So that's really important. So we're gonna go into that a little bit. Um, and I have a question just to start off, just to lay some groundwork before we start. And for you, Cruz, have you ever felt as though you lost a part of yourself when you weren't playing your sport?
100%. Like I felt it after every season. And I think especially that's why I played so many sports growing up. Um, I would go straight from football season into basketball season, straight into baseball season. And even during football season, when I was younger, I was playing travel baseball, so I didn't really have an off season. So my first time really having an off season was probably my sophomore year of high school. And after football, I felt so lost just because I didn't play basketball that year. And it was like um, you're so used to being surrounded by so many people, um, kind of being able to reflect on all the work you're putting into things. And I mean, you know how an off season goes. You're putting in a ton of work, but you don't really get that immediate gratification. You don't get the your results aren't as solidified. Like obviously you can see it in the weight room. Maybe your numbers are going up and stuff like that. Uh, but a lot of it, it's a lot harder to see your progress. It's a lot harder to see what you're accomplishing. So it's definitely it's a lot to take in mentally. And I know I've mentioned in the past, but like since moving away from football, it has been hard too. Like not being, I was just talking to some of my guys the other day about it. You're no longer around 100 guys every day. Uh, a lot of time as an individual to kind of compartmentalize everything that's going on. You have a lot of time to have that realization about what you're truly feeling, and you kind of have to sit there and feel it. You no longer get that distraction. So, I mean, keep it short, I guess. I would say that it's a lot to take in, but it's not anything unusual to feel good, bad, or indifferent during that downtime outside of the jersey for sure.
100%, yeah, and to answer that question of myself too, I think one of the times where, I felt as though um, I wasn't, I lost a bit of myself. I think it was more so the time when I was hurt.
Hmm.
Because, like you said, like I'm still around the team and I'm still around like the events that we're doing, but I'm not, I wasn't able to participate 100%. I wasn't able to do things that I wanted to do. And, I had to focus on recovering. But in that, it was definitely hard to like, it felt as though a piece of me was missing. There's a thing
Yeah.
that I spent my whole life. Um, Playing my whole, off season and my whole life pretty much is preparing for being able to play in college, being able to play at a higher level. So not being able to play, it definitely felt as though a big piece of me was missing. And that was definitely an experience and definitely something that I hadn't experienced before, really, because I never really missed the season. I never really had to take, too much time off and
Mm.
off season was going, especially. So that was for me, for my example, that was definitely a time where I didn't feel, I felt as though I lost a piece of myself.
And when like coming back into it, I guess, kind of knowing you're going to get cleared pretty soon, hopefully everything goes correctly, right? Do you feel like you're looking to gain something back, or is it more of like a reinvention, like you're kind of reshaping yourself? Like I know in times where I've been injured, I felt like those were times where off the field I'd grown more than I ever had. And so
Mhm.
like almost like a new form of myself. And not that it would be wrong to just try to get back that piece of yourself, but do you feel like you're kind of like regrouping, or is it more of like a growing thing? Like you're uh kind of taking on a new form. you've elevated everything off the field. So now you're kind of just you're going into it an entirely different way than you ever have.
Yeah, so I definitely think, at first I was like, wow, like what am I gonna do? Like I can't even
Yeah.
play. But I definitely I feel as though I took the time to really understand who I was outside of the sport. I was applying myself to different aspects of my life, whether that be spending more time with family, prioritizing, academics and making sure that, I'm where I'm supposed to be at the right time, putting the work in the classroom, and also just like finding myself like what I want to do passion-wise other than
Yeah.
sports. You can only like we've talked about this before in other episodes. You can only play a sport for a certain amount of time.
Mm.
Only select amount of people can play the sport up until they're like 40 years old, and
100%.
everybody
Yeah.
else has to get into life, start working, and follow their other passions that they have. So I definitely feel as though going into this season, it's like a reinvention of myself, because I
Yeah.
understand that I'm more than a football player. Um, and I can do other things without football. But bringing that in, it's like I still love football, and it's something that I'm very passionate about. So now, like I feel as though I have those two things to combine now, and I'm feeling definitely stronger in all aspects, and that'll definitely contribute towards the season.
Yeah, that's awesome. For those of you that, I mean, you guys don't know as well as I do probably, but Tyler, even when he was hurt, it's hard to be around the game when you're hurt, when you're not able to go, especially after you put in as much work as you did. Transferred to a new school, you're ready to go, but he was as good of a teammate as I've ever had, honestly. And it's really hard to do because it's hard. I mean, you're seeing everybody go out and do things that you want to do, and I mean, in the back of your head, you're probably thinking you could be doing that, if not doing better. You should be out there, right? But you were always there, trying to elevate everybody else's game, doing what you could to contribute. So, I thought that was really awesome. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Appreciate
solid human being, bro.
I appreciate that. But yeah, I think when we talk about like why it matters, like why having an identity behind your jersey or your sport, I think it's important because a lot of athletes struggle with that, especially like I said, when we're injured, you're not getting the amount of playing time that you want. Say you graduated from the sport and you're not no
Mm.
longer playing or you're stepping away from the game. So it's like it's important to have that self-worth and understand that you can do other things like other than your sport.
Yeah,
For sports taken away from you tomorrow because you never know, like you really could in one split second this sport can be taken away from you, so it's
100%.
important to have that base, that foundation of your own identity beyond the sport to be able to step in if something were to happen, or if you're not getting the results you want, or you're not able to play in the career field that you initially thought you'd be able to play in for a certain amount of
100%.
time.
I think we kind of touched on that too, is just people transitioning out of sports and you kind of see how they struggle. So like one of the things I had wrote down coming into this was just like you should associate yourself with sports, but like don't let it be your entire identity.
So,
Obviously it's something you're passionate about, something you're putting so much into, but that's not you. Like it's not the entirety of you. You were
mhm,
something before the sport, you're gonna be something else during it, and you're gonna be something else completely after it. So just
mhm,
kind of understanding that and having that realization. If you're able to have that realization while you're playing, it'll make it a lot easier to transition out of it.
right.
But I mean, it's no matter what, it won't be easy, but definitely kind of humanize yourself and understand that you're so much more than that jersey.
Mhm. 100%. Yeah. And another question for you, when talking about identity and rediscovering yourself outside of the game, what would you say helped you rediscover your identity outside the game?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, I think I might have mentioned it earlier, was a lot of self-reflection. Kind of, you just have so much time with your own thoughts compared to what you had before. Like, we've talked about the grind of a season and even an off season. Everything's constant. It's like a go, go, go phase. You really get maybe half of a day off, a week. So you don't really have a lot of time to sit there and just think about what's going on because even in that half day off, you're probably trying to catch up on classes or get ahead of classes or things like that. Just escape a little bit. So that self-reflection period has been really big for me because it's kind of it's, I mean, kind of like you said, it's allowed me to dive into other passions, kind of understand other things that I care about, things that mean a lot to me. Uh, so I think, I mean, I don't know. I think it's definitely the self-reflection, but also you don't really have a choice. You kind of have to find something else, find another outlet. Like I can't just sit there and think about how much I miss it. I mean,
Right.
sometimes I do. It's not like I just refuse to kind of acknowledge that feeling, but I also know that there's so much more left for me to do. Especially like I think my accomplishments off the field are gonna blow out of the water what I was able to do on the field. And I think a lot of that has to do, we touched on it last week a little bit, but with my religion, kind of my faith and understanding that there's a bigger plan for me than what was between the white lines.
Right.
No, it's it's kind of corny. A lot of people like you hear about it, you kind of see things about it, but I think a lot of people don't truly feel that way. They kind of, especially playing at a high level, playing a sport where if you're getting your school paid for or you're getting an NIL check, something like that, like essentially you're getting paid and that's how you're making your living. That's your job. Um, and that's kind of the situation I was in. Like I was getting my school paid for, so I felt like I was a football player before anything. And so now that I've been able to transition out of that, it's more of being able to take some time and kind of understanding who I am. But since I've been able to do that, it's helped with the entire process of just finding myself, finding happiness off the field, and kind of having an idea of where I want to go from here. Um, and I'm gonna flip that back on you. I want you to answer it. I know it's a little harder because obviously you're still active, you're still playing. But even with your injury, I'm sure you've had kind of time to process like a similar question. And if you need to rephrase it for yourself, that's fine. But kind of just reflect on how your injury was able to impact you in like a way that might be adjacent to mine.
Yeah. I think when you said it, like you said, self-reflection, I think that's a big piece of what I took in my time being away from my sport. And I think one thing that actually brought the self-reflection piece up was when I was like applying to different positions, trying to see what else I can do. Um, One of the questions that kept popping up in like the questionnaires and like the applications were like, what are your hobbies?
Yeah.
And when I thought of that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna type football. I play
Mhm.
football. And I'm like, wait, that's not my hobby. Like I thought like that's not a
Yeah,
hobby.
yeah.
And I had to sit there and reflect and I had to think about what else do I like to do other than playing sports, like playing football, like playing a sport that I've been playing my whole life. And I'm like, wow, I really had to dig deep and really think about it. So
Mm.
um that definitely was a piece where I was just kind of like thinking about what else I like to do other than playing my sport. And I was able to come up with a couple of things like, I like to thrift. I like to go out and like
Mm.
dress and like, I'm big into fashion. I'm big into like watching shows, been watching shows and going out in nature, going to work out and like eating good and things like that. So there's other things that I was able to come up with, but I don't think I would have thought that way, if I didn't like have that self-reflection
Yeah.
moment. That was definitely big. And I think I want to go back to also what you were saying about the NIL piece and when
Okay.
you brought it up, and that really, it also sparked another conversation in my head because NIL has changed the whole landscape of college sports in general because now there are athletes getting paid like millions of dollars to
Even
play this.
high school though, like I mean it's everybody's
That's
trying to get paid.
before you're even graduating, you're making a
Yeah.
bunch of money that you might not even have made, before this. So that changes the perspective on what it is, like what your identity is,
Yeah.
because the sport is not just a sport; it's becoming a job.
Hmm.
Like it's becoming a professional league essentially,
100%.
getting paid like hundreds and millions of thousands of dollars to play the sport. So when you're removed from that, it's like, okay, now I don't have a job. Like people can, I guess they could possibly look at it as they're not in their job anymore. They don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a whole nother conversation in
Whole
itself.
nother conversation.
I definitely think, sorry, my dog's barking. I
No, you're
think
good, bro.
um, that definitely can change someone's perspective when thinking about their identity beyond it because it's not just a sport now. It can be a sport, but with the NIL, it's not, it's making it a job,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up and I
No,
thought that,
yeah. There was a couple pieces I kind of wanted I'm glad you brought up like talking about that self-reflection, and it's weird how it's no longer surface level, like you're the different things you're interested in, because like I've done the same thing with questionnaires, like because you get them in recruiting and stuff like that, but it's like what are you interested, like what are your hobbies, and it's like I gotta sit there and think for 5, 10 minutes.
right. Like, it shouldn't be that way. Like we should,
Like I don't even know what I'm
you
interested
know?
in, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, I dang near gotta like look on TikTok, see like what is a hobby.
Right? Yeah. Like what
Same
does a
thing.
hobby even mean?
But yeah, that and like it's you're right. It's a profession, and you see a lot of people. I mean, it's the same way when they stop playing sports. If they're transitioning from jobs, they might have a hard time just because it's all they've known. And so if you lose that sport and a job at the same time, it's a lot to process. It's a lot to take in at any age. It doesn't matter if it's an 18-year-old kid or if it's somebody like I mean, like the Miami tight end who played college football till he was 27 or whatever, and like now he's done. Like he's gonna have a hard time transitioning too. And there's no shade against him. He played as long as he could play. I don't blame him for that. That's no knock. Especially if you're getting paid. If you're getting paid, I would play as long as possible.
Literally.
But yeah, I think there's a couple pieces of that are really good for anybody to kind of be able to think about, just because we're all I was talking to somebody about this the other day. We're all doing this for the first time, like everybody. Like this is my first time living, so I'm figuring it out as I go, taking everything in as I go. Every conversation is valuable because it's all knowledge, whether good, bad, or indifferent. You get to learn new things every day, and I think it's the same thing when you're transitioning out of a sport as you are while you're in it. But it's when you're no longer playing that, you're no longer collecting that check, things like that. It's a lot to take in, and it's important to lean on the people around you when you're going through things like that. But also, you have to figure out who you are, because it's we've had this conversation before, but it's hard for people to help you if they don't even know you. Like if they don't know what you're going through, they don't know what you like. It's a lot of athletes who transition out, I think they're strangers to themselves. Like they look in the mirror and they don't really see past the eyes. They don't know what else is going on.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's something for everybody to think about, but we kind of have to, as student athletes and athletes in general, just humanize yourself, understand you're a person doing this for the first time, and have some grace, have some humility, but don't limit yourself.
Mhm.
I think that's a lot. I think that's a ton of it, honestly. And I mean, I'd kind of like for you to touch on that is uh maybe limit yourself isn't the right word, but I think it kind of is limiting yourself, like kind of thinking maybe like you're a one trick pony and all you were made for on God's green earth was to go put on some pads and hit somebody as hard as you can. So if you can kind of dive into that, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. I think what I was able to do and the self-reflection piece, I understood that football isn't my only thing. Not only like I played football my whole life, but there was also a decent amount of downtime I had to really just understand, like, even when I was younger, just being a kid, just doing
Yeah.
all different things. I knew that there was more to my life than just playing a sport. So I think when you talk about like the transition struggle, I know how important it is to take what I have learned from sport, in terms of like character building,
Yeah.
uh, my leadership skills, all those things that I can pull from my sport. It has allowed me to use all that information and transform that into or use that and put that into other aspects of my life,
Hmm.
how can I use my leadership skills that I learned from my sport and now apply that to a career field or different like community service initiatives or different things like that, where it's not just my sport, but it's what I'm taking away from my sport and now applying it to the rest of my life, because you learn a lot throughout your
Oh
sport.
yeah.
It builds you as a person. Whether it's good or bad, you learn, you have different experiences, and you can utilize that to help you out in your future. So I think when talking about like it being my end all be all, I think I was able to and have, still being able to utilize what I've learned and experienced in
Hmm.
my sport and years playing the sport to help me apply that to the rest of my life. Because there's coaches that come in and say, hey, like, I'm trying to teach you something. It's not just about the sport. Like I'm trying to help you become a man. I'm trying to help you become a better person. And when coaches say that to me, like I honestly, like I really take that in and I
Hmm.
appreciate that a lot because, they're a little bit older. They've had their own life experiences. They know that like, although I'm teaching you this and I'm your coach in your sport, it's more of a mentorship and it's something that will help me better my life for the future. So
100%, 100%. And that's kind of what I mean, kind of the path I was going down, but I know like a lot of this is, I mean, it can be viewed in like a negative light when we're talking about transitioning out of sports, but I'd be lying if I said my experiences in sports haven't made me a better person and haven't shaped me to, I'm, like I said, I was playing sports my entire life. I've had like 7 off seasons since I was 6. Um, and so sports have shaped me and made me the person I am today. And I think a lot of the coaches I've had, I mean, maybe they weren't the greatest coaches, especially early on, but every single person that I've crossed paths with has contributed to me becoming who I am today, and I'm grateful. And I think like I wouldn't be half the man I am today without sports. So like, I mean, take that however you would please, but I think sports are huge for shaping people and kind of teaching them things, how to deal with hard things, um, how to deal with people, things like that. Like you said, leadership skills. I think so much of like that is the part of sports that you won't leave behind. Like you'll carry that forever. And I think that it's important to hold on to stuff like that and not leave that at the door when you walk out.
yes, 100%. And I think I want to touch more about like your faith. And I know we brought it up a little bit. You brought it up a little bit earlier, and it made me think about how important your faith could be
Hmm.
about your identity. Because we, as Christians, understand that your identity, you're not valued for what you do, but who you are. And I think that's important when we're having this conversation. So I want you to talk a little bit about like expand a little bit more about your faith in terms of how that can like, anchor your identity when everything
Yeah.
else feel
I
like uncertain.
actually my lock screen, it's Proverbs 21:2. It says a person may think their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. And I
Mhm.
think um that sticks with me for a lot of reasons, but mostly that like you're allowed to make mistakes. You're gonna mess up in life. There's gonna be things that you wish you would have done differently, probably. But if your heart's in the right place, you can't go wrong. And I think sometimes maybe I let my heart lead the way more than my brain too much, and um, that'll leave you kind of exposed sometimes. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. Uh, my faith has. I was literally just praying on this other day, and I was like, God, as long as you're with me, I will never deny you. If somebody asks me about you, like I will never. I'm not the perfect Christian, not even close. I mess up every single day. Um, but I will never deny my faith. I'll never deny God is my savior. And I think, like you said, that's part of my identity. Like I am a Christian. I'm I'm a lot of things, but first and foremost, I think I am a Christian, and that's how I'm trying to live right now. Um, and I think that honestly has made, I think I touched on it last week, but it's made my transition so much easier out of sports. and just knowing that there's so much more for me than like a ball and pads and trying to see how far I can throw it and things like that. But like I think faith is really good for anybody, and I'm not trying to push it on anybody. And whether you believe in God or if you're I don't know, if you're Buddhist or anything like that, I think it's important to have something greater than yourself. And that's kind of like what a team is for a lot of people. It's something bigger than you. Um, and I think that's why having God transitioning out of sports was so important for me, is still having something that was so much greater than me and being able to serve something greater than me, even though it wasn't a team.
Mhm.
And understanding that that thing that I'm serving is always going to be there for me, just like a team is. It might not be the way it might not it might not be there for me the way I want it to, just like a team is, but it's always there for me. And
Mhm.
I think that is, um, I don't know, like everybody has good and bad days, but like if your bad days, like somebody's still gonna catch you, how bad is that really? You know what I mean? Um, and I'd like to kind of turn it over back to you because I think you might be a little further in your faith walk than I am. So I kind of want your take on it and kind of just hearing maybe about that last piece I was talking about like how having something to fall back on, like, and how that has served you through your time off the field, because we've talked about it a couple of times, but injuries, especially transferring into a new school, it's a lot, and I think it's good for a lot of people that listen. And even if it's not an injury, if it's like an illness or you're just unable to perform the way you want to, kind of talk about how God has helped you through that, because it's it's far from easy to deal with.
Yeah. It's definitely a hard thing to deal with, with injuries, with struggles, anything that's taking away from something that like you really love. There's a lot of confusion. Like I had a lot of confusion. I had a lot of, not understanding. But one thing that definitely has brought me clarity and continues to bring me clarity is my faith.
Hmm.
I understand that God is always there. God always loves me. He knows who I am beyond my sport before I even knew who I was. So that's something that definitely has kept me grounded. And one of the verses that I go by is John 13:7. It says, you do not realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand. And that's something that's definitely stuck with me because
Sure.
I'm in my head, I'm like, why me? Like, why do I have to get hurt? Why can I not play the sport I love? Like, why is this happening to me now? I just did all this work and I've kind of rewired my thinking about how I attack that and how I think about it because I know that at the end of the day, God knows my path. He's in control of it. So all that questioning, all that misunderstanding, and that that's gone now because I
Yeah,
understand that it's in God's hands. He's the one that's really in control of my life. And when you give yourself to God, you know that that's the main thing. You can't question him because at the end of the day, he will be in control, and he's the one that's really knows where your life is going to go. So it's definitely been something that's kept me grounded and kept me sane, and just not allowing myself to just think about everything, think about different possibilities, and continue to question that. So
yeah, 100%. Dude, I really like that he knows who I am before I do. Like that. I wish I would have heard that 6 months ago. That's
right. Yeah, because you think about it, it's like he he's the creator. So at the end of the
yeah,
day, it's like you can never question him. Like even if you do have those thoughts, you got to let them like come in and that's got to be the first thing you think about. Like I can't even have this thought because he's in control. Like he knows who I am. He knows what's
100%.
going on. Maybe he did this on purpose so that now I can have some clarity on other things and apply myself to other aspects of my life. All those thoughts are gonna come in because you're human, you're normal. Like
Yeah.
you're fine for a reason. Like you're always gonna have certain thoughts that come in and come out. but you have to be able to, like I said, like let them flow in, let them flow out. It can't be, we talked about this, I think maybe the first, second episode, let those thoughts come in and let them just go as
Yeah,
they
that's
come.
that revolving door, right? Just
Exactly. Yeah, the revolving door.
it's gonna be there for a second and acknowledge it while it's there, but it's not gonna nothing lasts forever.
Right. I
That's
have I
that's
have
really
another, what is
go ahead.
that?
Go ahead. I said that was really good, but
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. How do you, so I want to touch up on like the younger athletes because I have some followers and some friends that are younger and still playing the
Mhm.
sport. So to you, my question to you is, what advice would you give to a younger athlete who's afraid of what comes after the game? They still have a lot of, they might have like to finish the rest of the high school season, going
Yeah.
to college, or may not even go to college. Maybe, it might just be high school. Like, what advice would you give to someone who knows that the end is near and are a little bit worried about that?
Yeah, I think I know I said it earlier, but just understand you're a person before a player. Like we're all humans. It's okay. It's kind of like that revolving door. Nothing lasts forever. Enjoy the moment while it's there. Soak it up, take it in 100%. I'm not saying to try to close that door sooner, like start looking toward the exit, but just understand that at the end of the day, you're still a person. So, and like make the most of your time while you're taking those opportunities, while you're out there playing. But when you're off the field, when you're just at home, think about what it is that kind of makes you you. Like what is your composition outside of the field? I think we all have like a base of framework. There's certain pillars in our lives that make us us. And at the end of the day, sports is only one of those pillars. And whether you have two pillars or 20, I don't like I can't answer that for you. I know it's more than two because you'll have people that care about you. You have your sports, and then you have an outer circle as well. So that's at least three pillars. And then you dive into your passions, like what is, like you said, like thrifting and stuff like that. That's part of what makes you you. I know it seems small, um, to a lot of people, like that you're probably like, oh, well, that's just something I'll do on like a random Saturday where I just have time to kill once every 2 months. Well, that's something you're passionate about, something you're willing to go out of your way for. Um, Thrifting's really underrated, by the way. Something I've been diving into a little bit, but like kind of like reflect on those pillars, understand what your composition is, and don't try to be somebody you're not. Kind of embrace who you are. Have those long looks in the mirror. Um, because at the end of the like everybody rides off in the sunset, whether you're 14 or 40 when it happens, it's going to happen. There's going to be a day where somebody tells you you can't play anymore.
Mhm.
And you have to understand that that's okay. Nobody has played their entire life, but like there's so much more to look forward to. Even if you're a miracle and you play till you're 70, you're still gonna have a life off the field. You still have life after sports. So understand what it is that makes you you. Acknowledge that, embrace that, and try to grow in those fields. Don't let those pillars be weaker than your athletic pillar
Mhm.
because they're just as important. You're like we talked about it, you spend at the max 3 hours in a competition a week. If you're a football player, maybe more than that in other sports, but 3 hours, okay, I'll say 3 hours a day in a competition a week. There's still 21 hours in the day, 21 other hours in the day. So what are you going to do in those 21 hours that kind of define you? And like, one challenge I've kind of had for myself is how am I going to leave my mark off the field? Because obviously in sports, like there's record books and stuff like that. Um, but like how am I going to be remembered off the field? Like what am I going to do to cement my legacy off the field? And I think that's a big reason why I wanted to start this podcast is I want to leave my mark on the field and I want to touch as many lives as I can. Like that's something I've recently become super passionate about just because we talked about it earlier in one of our earlier podcasts, but we both know what it's like to not have somebody there. We both know what it's like to feel isolated, to feel alone. And I'm trying to shrink that number as much as I can do individually. And I know, as like I said it, and I'll say it again, I don't know how many walls I can break down by myself, but if I have Tyler with me, it's going to be more walls than it would have been before. And if I have one more person with me, it's going to be even more walls. So like the bigger I can grow this community and communities even outside of the podcast, the more walls I'm going to be able to break down. So I would say have that self-reflection and kind of think about what you want to leave your mark as off the field because your legacy your legacy on the field is so much smaller than what it was on it. Walter Payton is one of the greatest, not just running backs, but football players to ever play the game. And he has an award after him just for being a great person. And that'll go on as long as the NFL goes. A lot of people don't even like they've never seen film of Walter Payton. They don't know. There's people that have probably seen post about the award and don't even know who Walter Payton is, but they understand that the person receiving this award is a really good person. So Walter Payton must have been a really good person
Right.
if this billion-dollar corporation decided they needed to name an award after him. You know what I mean? So just having that, being able to, um, like I said, build those pillars and understand that what you're going to leave behind off the field is so much greater than what you left in between the lines is it's huge and it's going to be what gets you through the day and essentially lets you grow as a person.
There's a lot of good points that you talked about, and I'm really glad that you brought up some of them. And I think that one of the things you said was be yourself. And I think that's really important when we talk about identity, because in this day and age and our generation, comparison is a big thing.
Mhm.
And with social media, everyone like presenting their life on social media, and um, you're able to see what everyone else is doing. And it's just natural for people to be like, oh, wow, what are they doing? Like, I wish I could do that. That's cool. Like, you just
100%.
comparing yourself to them and comparing your life to someone else's life who may or may not be a realistic thing or something to really get after. So I think you might have said this one of the last episodes or another episode that we had, it's like comparison kills happiness or comparison is the thief of all joy or something
Yeah,
like.
something along the lines of that.
Yeah, and it really like when we're talking about identity, it's important to not compare yourself to others. It's important to be yourself, be who you are, find your own identity, find something that you like to do, and base your life off of that. Another thing that you talked about was find your community, and that's another thing that stuck out to me because um, when we're in a sport, a lot of sports are, teammate oriented. Like there's a whole team based, and there's some that are individual. But the biggest thing that people miss when they leave, like you said, is the community that they have, the camaraderie, like the big team settings where you're interacting with like 50 up to 100 people. And like that's one thing that you might not be able to find somewhere else, leaving your sport, or you might have a fear that you might not be able to find that. So when leaving your sport and trying to find your identity, it's important to go and find your community, find another community that's not your sport, find something or a group of people or somewhere where you guys have the same beliefs, same passions, something that you guys can agree and connect on, because then that will in turn make you feel better and make you feel like you belong. You have something that's to the higher power that's bigger than what you are individually. So that's those two things I really wanted to touch up on, and I appreciate you bringing that up because those were two big things as well.
100%. I think definitely just we had when I was at my Catholic high school, our like slogan thing, it was a quote by St. Francis de Sales, and he said, "Be who you are and be that well." And I mean, at the school, honestly, I didn't agree with a lot of stuff, but that has stuck with me, and that's something I'll remember forever. Is just like exactly that. Be who you are and like be that unapologetically. Like live. Don't try to live and be somebody you're not because you don't want to look back and be like, Bro, I didn't even recognize who I was for 10, 15 years. Just be who you are. Don't try to live in somebody else's shoes because nobody can fill yours. So you probably can't fill theirs either. There's nothing wrong with that. But just be you and do it unapologetically. Live the way you want to. And leave everything else to be. Everything else will work itself out.
Right. Yeah, and I think that when I asked you the question about, the advice that you would give to like the younger person, I would kind of want to answer that myself
Yeah.
too. I think when we also talked about our faith and how God is in control of everything. He knows like, what your plans are. Um, but besides that, another person who also is in control of your life is yourself. And understanding that there may be a point in time where your career or your sport is not going to be anything that you're doing anymore. You might not be able to play anymore, but you are in control of the rest of your life. You are a person that can make impact somewhere else. You can have other things start up. So understanding that you have your own ability to make other things happen outside of your sport is really important, and understanding that that's a real thing. It's not just, some made up story. Like you have your own story. You can create your own story. You can create what happens the rest of your life for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So when you're worried about what your future might entail, like you got to think about that as well.
Yeah. One of my coaches actually he would tell us, and as a quarterback, he would tell us you have the pen last. And I mean, you make the final decisions. You're signing off on everything. And that's exactly how life is. You have the pen last. Um, as much as God is writing your story, you have your own hand in it as well. You have to carry it out. So kind of just understanding that the bike isn't going to go forward unless you pedal. Like nothing, it's not going to take care of itself. I know, like you have to do what you can and leave everything else to, I mean, if you believe in God, leave it to God. If not, make it happen, I guess. I mean, I don't know. But like, like I said, the bike's not going to pedal itself. You have to pedal if you want to go forward. And just having that understanding about everything in life, it's going to make, it's going to take a lot of weight off your shoulders and kind of just expecting everybody else to make sure that you're doing what you have to do because as you get older, especially like if we're still doing this advice to young athletes, the further you get, the older you get, the less people are going to be there to make sure that you're doing everything you have to do. Like there has to be some sense of accountability, and you have to make sure you keep walking, you keep moving forward, keep taking down the task that you have to take down. And like I said, everything else, if you believe in a God, he'll make it happen. If you don't make it happen yourself, like I mean that part I don't really have a perfect thing to say for that. But yeah, just keep moving forward for sure.
I love that. I love that. And that's really all I have for this segment. If you have anything else you want to touch on, if not, then I can have another wrap up sentence just like the last.
Do you hold on. I just wanted to just throw out there that like you have to understand that the relationships you made in between the lines aren't going to disappear just because you're not there. I know I've touched on this in the past, but especially since we're talking about identity off the field, um, like this with me and Tyler. Like I live, I can't remember how far it is, 2,500 miles away from Tyler,
Yeah,
bro.
over a
Like,
day if you're driving.
bro, at least over a day.
Over a day for
It dang
sure.
near would take a day when I was flying. Yeah, these relationships, they're not just gonna they don't go away just because you don't get to see each other every day or because you're not in the same walk of life anymore. Like me and Tyler, one of his current coaches, my previous coaches reached out to us. I can't tell you guys how much that meant to me. Like it's because you're with these people and like it seems like it means so much to them that you're there, but then like you don't hear from them again. But having the understanding that it goes both ways as well. I think I've mentioned this in the past. I'm really bad about reaching out to people. Um, but I also know that if I reached out to these people they would be there. Like they're there for the conversation, just like Tyler. I reached out to him, bro, you want to get on Zoom and talk for an hour and just see if people listen?
Let's do it, man. I said, yes, sir.
So it's just having that understanding that uh people don't love you for what you do on the field. Like they might like it. It might be pretty cool, but
Right.
you're so much more than your uniform and things like that. And having that understanding, especially for younger athletes, like it's everything really. You get so caught up in your identity and think people only care about what you do if you perform well. It's just it's not true because you're gonna chances are like you're the only one that remembers how you played 6 weeks ago anyway. So kind of being able to leave that behind, understanding it's not that important. Um it's not as it's not that it's unimportant, but it's just not as important as everything else that goes on off the field. That's only a small, it's a pillar in your life. Like I said, it's a small portion of your life. So having that understanding, that people are gonna be there for you, your relationships carry off the field, I think it's super important for people to be able to remind themselves as they're stepping away from their respective field.
Yeah. Like you're not, yeah, like you said, like you're not, just because you might leave the sport, it doesn't mean that the friendships that you made throughout your sport are going to be gone. Like you said,
100%.
definitely like a big piece. I love that you said that too, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm never gonna see him again. Although that may be true, like nowadays we got social media, we got,
100%.
cell phones, we got devices that you can talk whenever, any time of day, any day of the week, you can just talk and reach out to someone. So
Yeah,
that
bro. I mean, and it's sad. Like I would, when I was getting ready to leave, I was telling some of my guys, I was like, bro, next time I see you, it's probably gonna, like, it's sad to think about and it's kind of weird. But like next time I see you, it probably won't be till there's a wedding or a funeral. And it's sad, but it's realistic. Um,
right.
but that's also part of growing up. Like circles get smaller, and that's okay because the smaller your circle gets, the closer you're gonna be with them, right? Um, but I mean, if you can, go see your friend. Like, I don't care how far they are. Like, make
Yeah.
that drive, get on that flight if you can, because relationships are important, but understanding that they go both ways as well. You can't expect people to always have their hand reaching down to you if you're never reaching back.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
but yeah, I think relationships are huge and kind of like carry those everywhere you go. It's important to have people that you care about and that care about you.
Yes, definitely. Like that's like the biggest thing, honestly, is you are yourself and you have your own identity, but your friends and the people who you surround yourself with will also push your identity
Yeah,
and
they contribute to it for sure.
yes. But yeah, that's all I have. We had
Man,
this is
I'm
a
excited. I'm excited to hear what you got today, man.
I got you right here.
You set the bar high last week.
Okay, so I have your identity was never meant to be limited to a jersey, a stat line, or a title. You are so much more than what you do. You are who you are when the lights are off, when the crowd is gone, and when the game ends. That's where your real strength lives. And when you know who you are deeply, truly, you become unshakable. That's what it means to be built to last.
Mm.
That's
Oh,
love.
I like
So
that,
that's
man.
love sentence for this episode.
Unshakable, firm foundation for sure.
Firm
You gotta
foundation.
dig your heels in, bro.
Yeah. You
You
know
do
that
that,
song, Firm
do that well.
Foundation?
You said what?
You know that worship song, Firm
Bro,
Foundation?
don't play with me. Come on,
No, you know that's bro. I'm always listening to that song. That
bro.
song. Awesome.
Okay, hot take. That's my top three for sure.
Yeah,
Top three gospel songs, 100%.
I like that take. That's a good take
Yeah.
for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, man, always love talking with you.
And it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate all the support that we've gotten so far and that we're continuing to get. We hope that our community continues to grow. Um, and if it doesn't, we appreciate the people that are sticking by our side, man.
Keep
Like
that 100.
we said at the beginning, if only one person listens and we're making a difference in that one person's life, we're completely good with that. But I mean, like I said earlier, we're trying to break down as many walls as possible too. So,
Love it.
yeah,
Love it.
we're gonna get this out and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Sir.